What up, fine folks? So it's now July 6th, which means it's been about a month since I came into the hospital for the first time. A month since all of this has happened to me. And so I'm kind of starting my whole recovery. It's looking like it's going to take a while. It's looking like it's going to take between 6 months and a year to be back to at least somewhat of a full rhythm. And it's going to be a really interesting period for many reasons because during that time, I'm really, really limited with what I can do at the very beginning. So right now, during the first few months, I can do really absolutely nothing. So I'm not supposed to, well, obviously I can't do any sports, can't do even running. I can't go on walks. I can't go in the sun. If it's hot enough that it makes me sweat, then that's, that taxes my heart a little bit. It gets my blood pumping. And so that's a no-no. I'm not supposed to go upstairs. I'm not supposed to really walk besides, going to the bathroom, going to the kitchen, whatever. I'm not supposed to really do anything. I can't drink coffee because that would speed up my heart rate. I really cannot do anything. The very principle of an effort, I'm not allowed to do, which is going to be really interesting because sports alone is really what gave rhythm and structure to my life. It's kind of what every other habit was built around. So if you do it enough, if you do enough sports in volume and in intensity, then kind of everything else is going to be built around it. So say for example, you're used to coming home all drenched in sweat, all disgusting, then you're going to automatically take a shower after that. And then a bunch of little things like eating, you're starving after training. You also go to sleep really easily. You wake up for training, but you also go to sleep really easily because you're really exhausted from the training. A bunch of little things like that just completely lose themselves once you're no longer training. You forget to shower, you forget to eat. I'm not even kidding. You go to bed, but you're not tired, so you don't fall asleep. Nothing wakes you up. It's just everything kind of loses its rhythm. Everything loses its structure when everything is structured around the sport. And this has actually happened to me already back when I used to live in Montreal. I was training every day, 2 or 3 times a day. And then I broke my foot, stopped training, and then everything else fell apart. Literally everything else fell apart. And so now that I don't have any sports for the next 6 to 12 months, obviously I can start to ease back into it. So I think in 6 months I can start to maybe do some light jogging or stuff like that. I'll be able to go upstairs and drink coffee at that point. But I still won't be able to do the training, not nearly in the intensity nor the volume that I'm used to. So for the next 6 to 12 months, and maybe even longer, depending on how well this recovery goes, because they still don't really know what I have, I'm going to lack this whole structure, which is kind of a blessing because this is a great opportunity to develop this structure, develop this discipline that won't be so dependent on sports. So it's a good opportunity to build some resilience. And then there's also a few other hidden blessings. So besides developing the structure and the discipline that doesn't depend on training, I also can work on a few other facets for example, I can reinforce some really strategic parts of my body. So for example, my neck and things like this. Since I'm in combat sports, there's a lot of things, a lot of weak points that I often neglect when I train. I like to train big compound moves. So I do legs, I do arms or whatever. I don't really train my neck. I don't really train my wrists and things like this. And especially the neck is an important one because in combat sports, you're quite at risk of long-term injury. And long-term injury is not something that takes 6 to 12 months to recover from. It's something that can really set you back for the rest of your life. And so it's going to be a good opportunity to train my neck because it's quite a small muscle. It doesn't require a lot of blood flow. So I can train it without it actually taxing my heart, which is a good thing. Some other blessings, I'm going to be able to develop some kind of alternative athletics. So I don't believe that athleticism is only speed and strength and endurance. I think there's also a few other facets that I often neglect, like mobility, like flexibility. And these are things that since prior to this, I would always, if I had an hour of training, I would always put it to technique or to cardio or to strength. Now, since I have a lot of time, I'm going to be able to focus on these little things that I previously neglected and get those from 0 to 1, which is already infinitely more. Meaning that, ironically, I can come out of this more athletic than I came into it, get back to training at 110%, which is going to be really nice. So when I start training again, obviously I'll be a little bit less strong, a little bit less endurance, less powerful, but I'll be more flexible, more my body will be able to do new things, and that'll be a really cool thing. This is something that I can develop. I need to be really careful because obviously usually with stretching, you need to warm up. Here, I can't do typical warm-ups that I would usually do when I would have a stretching routine. So I would need to do some breath-paced micro oscillations to kind of get into the end of the ranges of motions, and then stretch from there. And it's gonna be nothing like sports, because by definition it's not sports. Sports is the very thing that I'm not allowed to do. But it is going to be interesting to kind of develop this new axis, and then it's going to be much easier when I get back to training to do very minimal of this type of training just to maintain it, now that I spent the next 6 months really just developing it and focusing on that. So that's going to be a good thing, and I'm going to come back to this more athletic than I came into it. And it's also a good opportunity to make sure I get complete recovery, because in combat sports, you're getting hit, you're getting twisted all the way, and your neck, your spine, your legs, everything always hurts. You're always constantly hurting, which isn't a big deal. It's just that you can't really separate what's hurting from what's injured. And so this will be a good opportunity to get rid of everything that's hurting, because obviously I'm not getting hit anymore. I'm not getting cranked and twisted. I'm not getting gut wrenched and all of that, which is a good thing, because that means that over the next few months, if I know that if I feel pain, I know something's really wrong. I can tell that it's something that's actually injured, and therefore I can give it time and attention. I can give time and attention to what actually needs the treatment. Some lingering, nagging issues from a long time ago, kind of injuries that on their own wouldn't be worth me stopping all of my training for. But now that my training stopped, I can give attention to all of these and then come back to training really at 100% with no issues in my body, which is going to feel really, really nice. I can bulletproof my knees, other weak areas, my neck, as I said, to make sure that they don't get injured later on, to make sure that, if they're 90%, I mean, for example, I tore my meniscus a few years ago. I also broke my toe, broke my foot, and tore a ligament in there. And the ligament's never been back 100%. My meniscus has never been back 100%. So this is the good opportunity to not only give it rest, but also give it the attention it needs to make sure that it's not 90%, but 100%, and that it doesn't, slowly degrade over the next few years. So that's going to be a really good thing, actually, to come back in 6 months, 1 year, whatever it is, come back really at 110%. Throughout this time, I'm going to track my progress, whether it's my flexibility, also my muscle mass. I'm inevitably going to lose some muscle mass. It's going to be quite annoying, but without training, without activity, I'm going to have to lose some of it. I've already lost 1.5 kilos, about almost 2 kilos since I started all of this thing a month ago. Unfortunately, that's kind of how my metabolism works. And so I need to also modify my nutrition to make sure I don't lose too much muscle mass, since my muscles won't be getting used. They won't be all sore. They won't be calling for the protein and things like this. So I have to make sure I eat a pretty insane amount of protein just to make sure that my muscles don't degrade. Same, I'm going to keep track of all my flexibility and every little aspect that I'm trying to develop. It's a good opportunity to really keep track of it from A to Z. So it's going to be a cool little journey. This is kind of just an introduction. Obviously, I'm not actually showing much of what I'm doing, but just giving an introduction. And this will probably be one that is also for me, that I'm kind of just archiving my own progress through, seeing what's working, seeing what's not working, and things like this. But this is my road to recovery, and how I not only build a new life without sports, but also prepare my return to sports in the next year or so. So I look forward to it, and I hope you do as well. If you don't, I don't really care.